which makes sense. You also had the for the antidote for anthrax, I think Tamiflu.
Yes.
That was another program. But you just follow the money on all this stuff and look at who's behind it. And I'm wondering, I have full faith that these people are going to fold in on themselves. They're going to implode. I don't care how big their castles are or their armies or whatever. They can't run from their karma, and that's being accelerated and quickened right now. But people have to really wake up and pull away and just stop participating. Stop buying those products. Stop participating in things that are detrimental to your health, and start eating close to the earth. Start eating more organic, and just don't be a part of that program anymore.
And yes, a lot of people ask me, Mel, after doing this show for some time, have you come to any conclusions? A conclusion is so obvious. We live in a dual world. It's just duality. That's why you'll never see a one-world government. Never. Because they want to keep regions apart so that we can always have war. In order for a defense contractor to exist, you need to have war. So you need to create your own enemies. In order to have peace, you need to have war. In order to have medical industry survive, you need disease. That's why you have viruses that on the computer. Companies pay hackers to produce those viruses so that those companies can produce. And the two things that are most profitable in this world are war and disaster. And when the BP oil spill started, I thought to myself, this is part of the report from Iron Mountain, which we discussed during our show. First, the Cold War, then terrorism, then a natural disaster, that this could possibly be it. And then the next one, a lot of people think this is science fiction, and it's not, an alien invasion. So when you see the government starting to demonize aliens, a lot of these movies demonize aliens. It may be because they're preparing to do a false flag event, maybe Project Blue Beam, that some of you listening know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's an illusion, and they always put us against each other, Democrat against Republican, left versus right. And when you sit down, a lot of people from different parties, and you realize that you have so many things in common, and you're more of a centrist person, you realize that the mainstream media is the one feeding this fear. We need to get off this fear, because when we're in fear, we're stuck in the mud. We cannot move forward. Our bodies start shutting down. And even recently, years ago, I didn't know what a chakra was, and now I'm starting to realize and learning that they close when you are in fear. And we have exactly what happened in Germany in the 30s and 40s. Today's warning level is orange. That will never go away. But if you start ignoring it, look at the sky on a sunny day, look at the nature and the animals surrounding you, and an example of this is James Ranch, which to me is just paradise on this earth. You'll start to realize that you don't have to fall for the fear. That is just voluntary. Get off the fear, and you'll be free.
Exactly. I think it's so, there's no saying to be enlightened means to be in knowledge of, both sides of the coin, the good, bad, and the ugly, and just pay attention on every level and do what's necessary, out of love for your own body and your friends and family. Do what's necessary to serve, the higher good. But I've seen a lot of people, say, they'll be living, right on the coast where the oil's spilling and everything. They go, well, that's not my reality. And I go, well, you do have a physical body, and you're sitting there right on the coast, and you're breathing those fumes. So I think it's great to think positive, but at the same time, you might have a little reality check, as long as you have a physical body.
And also get off your TVs, people. All you need to do is spend 5 minutes on TV, and you start just bringing yourself down. Buy this, buy that, travel here, travel there, buy the better things. It's all materialism. I used to be in that world. Lisa, Renee, I talked about this before. You're trying to chase the mighty dollar, but then you realize that you were born without anything, and you'll die without anything. So to be yourself, and this is something that Ralph Waldo Emerson said, and I live by this quote now, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Try to listen to those words, and you'll be totally free again.
Yeah, being authentic is quite a trip. Very few people are authentic, and this is a whole show in itself, but I was talking about The Secret, and I said, well, The Secret, you're going to pull the rug out from under you because the program that you're trying to manifest from is the intellect and the ego. And you've been given that program through your environment and through watching the boob tube, and all the other stuff, and social consciousness, but you don't even know who you are. So you're not going to manifest squat diddly because you're running a program that was given to you through social consciousness, which is in your ego and your intellect, and you have to get beyond that and find out what your unique soul purpose is, and then you start manifesting, and you manifest what you need, and then you got to clear out all the baggage that blocks the manifestations, all the old wounds and traumas and wrong conclusions from past experiences. But a lot of people want that shortcut to, like an infomercial for materialism. You get the big house, the woman to die for, the Mercedes, and everything else, and then you're happy. Well, then you can just be happy. A car doesn't have any emotions. There's no happiness in a car. It's just a chunk of metal. That happiness always comes from within.
In a way, it's almost a form of mind control that for decades society has instilled these behaviors into us so that the economy didn't collapse. They tell us that we need to go shopping, and they never tell us that we need to sit down and be with ourselves sometimes and admire nature, which costs nothing. So it's very important to be in touch with nature and look at the things where you don't have to pay. But this is not an attack on intellectuals. Some people with PhDs are very respected, but they're taught in a way by academia. And if you cannot prove, and if you defy the laws of physics, all of a sudden you're a kook. You lose the career you have with the university, and that's why I use the example of Dr. Brooks Agnew. He can walk both ways. He can walk in the spiritual way, and he can walk in the academia way. So just because you are a PhD or an intellectual doesn't mean that there's knowledge out there that you cannot explain. And this is a metaphor that I use all the time. I used it with Lisa. When you turn on your radio, you're listening to a radio station. And just because you cannot hear the dozens of other radio stations out there, it doesn't mean they don't exist. But the majority of the matter in the universe is dark matter. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean that it's not there. So the same thing is with knowledge. There's knowledge out there that we cannot explain. It doesn't mean that it's not there. We just need to look for it in a different way than the one that we were taught.
Yeah, it's the old saying, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is a form of insanity. And
exactly.
People keep running the same program over and over and over again, and they don't have any space for a new program. I like what Jenny said. They have a cup, actually, that it's kind of interesting. When you fill it up, you can fill it up to half full, and it's fine. And as soon as you try to fill it over half full, everything goes out of it. It's a special little cup they have in Tibet. And it's kind of a joke, and it's like, so that much wants more program, it's like they show it doesn't work, it's hilarious. But it's showing them that you have to empty your cup, you have to keep emptying your cup if you're going to learn something new.
And what you said about schizophrenia or somebody who does something again and again expecting a different outcome, something that Bashar, some people who listen to you know who Bashar is, he says that if you do something without knowing again and again, it's a habit. But if you finally find out and you realize that you're doing it, it's a choice. We have the choice to make a difference. All we need to do is realize that we're doing it.
I agree. We're about out of time here, so before we get off the air, I want you to give your website and how people can contact you and listen to your show.
Absolutely. The website, very simple, veritasshow.com. That's VERITAS show.com. They can come and listen to half of our shows. We only survive on voluntary subscriptions, folks. We're not part of the establishment. We don't have any commercials or people who can censor us, so we prefer to do it just like that. So you can listen to half the show, and if you like what you hear, you can subscribe and keep Veritas on the air so we can have great people like James Gilliland and all the rest of the great people we've had on the show so far.
Great. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. It's been an awesome event, and I bet after you went home, you're probably going to be watching the skies a little bit more and having some things flying around overhead, where you live.
Absolutely. I had a tripod on, And I'm going to share with all of you if I find something. And as you always say to people, look up to the sky because you'll never know what you'll find, but you have to look.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We've got to sign off. Have a great evening over in your neck of the woods, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, James. Take care.
All right. This is James Gilliland with As You Wish Talk Radio signing off. Have a great evening, and watch the skies. It isn't just in Trout Lake where this phenomenon is happening. It's happening all over the world. So grab your camcorders, go outside, get your night vision flipped on, and see what's flying. Have a good evening.